Katy Perry is making a cheeky comment about her romance with Justin Trudeau. After pictures of the fireworks singer kissing former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on a yacht in Santa Barbara, California surfaced,
Katy Perry has kept the world guessing, but on October 11th, 2025, everything changed. Photos of her and Justin Trudeau, the former Canadian Prime Minister, on her private yacht off Santa Barbara went viral, showing a chemistry that had fans buzzing and critics questioning what really happened. Then, just 48 hours later at her London concert, she dropped a playful hint that confirmed whispers without fully spelling it out, teasing a romance that had been simmering behind closed doors. How did pop's biggest personality end up in this unexpected pairing? And what does it mean for their public lives and private hearts? In this video, we dig into the secret dinners, the hidden messages, and the moments that sparked one of the most talked-about romances of 2025. The yacht kiss that ignited the firestorm. The internet has seen its fair share of scandals, but few hit like the photos that surfaced on October 11th, 2025. There they were, Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau, caught on camera aboard her luxury yacht off the coast of Santa Barbara, looking completely wrapped up in each other. No assistants, no PR teams, just the two of them, laughing, leaning close, and yes, kissing. For a moment, it didn't look like pop and politics. It looked like two people forgetting the world was watching. And that's exactly why it blew up so fast. Within hours, the images were everywhere, from Twitter feeds to talk shows. Comment sections turned into digital campfires, where everyone with an opinion. Some thought it was a publicity stunt. Others swore it was real love. The timing didn't help. Trudeau had only recently stepped down as Canada's Prime Minister, while Katy was still fresh from her lifetime's world tour. Both of them were standing at career crossroads, and suddenly, this one weekend on a yacht became the headline that defined them. Now, this wasn't just a random day at sea. The yacht itself was basically a floating palace, one of those multi-million-dollar sanctuaries that only A-listers could casually escape to. Insiders claimed Trudeau had flown in from Ottawa just for this trip, some saying it was spontaneous, others whispering it had been planned for weeks. Either way, it was clear this wasn't their first time talking. Something had been brewing quietly, far from the cameras, and this was the moment it finally surfaced. People couldn't stop analyzing the photos, the way they looked at each other, how comfortable they seemed. Like two people who'd already crossed that invisible line between friendship and something else. For Katy's fans, it was wild to see her with someone outside the entertainment bubble. For Trudeau's followers, it was even wilder. Canada's former leader turned global heartthrob overnight. Social media went into overdrive, with hashtags like Katy and Justin trending for days. Some joked that Trudeau had gone from running a country to running away with a pop star. Still, beneath all the jokes and chaos, there was something undeniably intriguing about the pairing. Katy's been through her share of public relationships, Russell Brand, Orlando Bloom, and each one taught her something about fame and heartbreak. Trudeau's journey wasn't that different, just in a different spotlight. His divorce had made headlines only months earlier, and stepping away from politics seemed to have left him searching for something new. So when people saw him on that yacht, smiling like a man who'd finally exhaled, it was hard not to wonder if this was more than just a fling. But then again, what did it all mean? Was this just a rebound romance for two people at turning points in their lives? Or was something genuine unfolding here? Katy's team stayed quiet. No official statements, no denials. Trudeau's office didn't say a word either. That silence became fuel. Every gossip site spun its own version, and fans started hunting for clues in old interviews, song lyrics, even flight logs. The mystery made it impossible to look away. And here's where things get interesting. Because while everyone was obsessing over those photos, very few people knew there was actually a story behind them, one that didn't begin on a yacht at all. So how did a political heavyweight and a pop icon even cross paths in the first place? Secret beginnings, from Montreal dinners to hidden pursuits. It's funny how the biggest stories sometimes start quietly, almost like background noise you don't notice until it suddenly takes over the whole room. Back in July of 2025, when most people were still talking about Katy Perry's Lifetimes tour, there were already whispers floating around about something different. Montreal was buzzing that weekend. The city was alive with energy, and Katy had just finished a sold-out show that left everyone in the crowd singing long after the lights dimmed. But that's not what got people talking. It was what happened after. Some say it was just a coincidence, but Justin Trudeau, still Prime Minister at the time and knee-deep in political heat, somehow found himself with front-row seats. Maybe it was a casual night out, maybe not. After the concert, the two were spotted having dinner at Maison Bouloud, that upscale place where privacy is rare but not impossible. A few diners noticed them laughing, leaning in, like they already knew each other well. He was all crisp suits and practiced charm, and she, still glowing from the stage, looked surprisingly relaxed. People who claim to know them say there was an instant connection. Not the exaggerated kind you read about in tabloids, just that easy spark that happens when two people find themselves on the same wavelength. Trudeau, with his reputation for polished speeches and political poise, seemed to drop the formality. He talked about climate policies, women's rights, and mental health, topics Katy has always cared about deeply. She's been a vocal supporter of LGBTQ+ rights and open about her own therapy journey, so it wasn't hard to see how those conversations could stretch late into the night. Now, what's interesting is how quickly things seemed to escalate. By August, Trudeau's long marriage had officially ended. The joint statement talked about mutual respect and co-parenting, but the timing made people wonder. Around that same period, a few sharp-eyed fans noticed he was in California more often than usual. Not for politics, those days were fading, but for something or someone else. Sources later hinted that he'd been quietly slipping into Montecito, where Katy lives, under the radar. And here's where it gets a little more intriguing. People who were around during that time described how Trudeau was chasing her since July. They had common ground, and that's what seemed to hold it all together. Both of them had spent years in the public eye. Both had gone through public breakups, and both were trying to find something real in lives that often felt too curated. They bonded over causes that actually mattered to them: mental health awareness, environmental advocacy, and equality. Maybe that's why it worked. Maybe that's what made it feel different. Of course, nothing that high profile stays secret forever. There were FaceTimes, long text threads, and weekends where his plane conveniently landed in California just when she happened to be home. Their teams tried to keep it quiet, but eventually, someone always talks. And still, even then, there was no official word from either side. It was all glances, subtle posts, and that sense of something just beneath the surface. Not that it was all smooth sailing. Some of Trudeau's old controversies, like the blackface scandal that once nearly derailed his career, started bubbling back up online. Katy's camp worried about optics, especially since she'd been under fire for her ongoing collaboration with Dr. Luke. But, according to insiders, she didn't care. She liked how genuine he was when the cameras were off, and that seemed to matter more than headlines. They even connected over shared grief, something most fans didn't realize. Katy had opened up years earlier about losing a pregnancy, and Trudeau had spoken about his brother's death in that tragic avalanche back in the late 1990s. That kind of emotional honesty built a bridge between them that fame couldn't fake. By October, what started as a quiet Montreal dinner had turned into something people could actually feel. Two worlds colliding, a pop star and a politician finding an odd sense of peace in each other's chaos. But of course, that peace didn't last long. Once those yacht photos surfaced, everyone wanted answers. What really happened between them? Were they serious? Or was this another fleeting headline in a world that moves too fast to tell the difference? On-stage bombshell Katy admits the truth in London. Some moments in pop culture sneak up on you, not because they're shocking, but because they feel oddly human. That's what happened one chilly October night in London when Katy Perry was halfway through her set at the O2 Arena, doing what she's always done best, commanding a crowd of thousands like they were her close friends. The energy was wild, confetti still floating in the air, when a fan right near the front row stood up and shouted a marriage proposal. It was one of those spontaneous concert moments that could have been forgotten, except she paused, looked straight at him, and with that familiar mix of humor and warmth said, "Oh, honey, that's sweet, but I've always fallen for Englishmen until now. I'm kind of involved with someone else." And that's when everything changed. The crowd roared, phones went up instantly, and you could practically feel the internet heating up from all the people recording. That one sentence, dropped so casually between songs, told the world what weeks of speculation had been hinting at. Everyone in that room knew exactly who she meant. The timing was just too perfect. Only 2 days after those photos of her and Justin Trudeau lounging together on her yacht had gone viral. It wasn't just a performance anymore, it was a statement, delivered in the most Katy way possible, teasing, confident, and unapologetically open. People who were there that night said she didn't seem nervous at all. If anything, she looked relieved, like she'd finally stopped tiptoeing around something everyone already knew. And, in true Katy Perry fashion, she didn't drop any names. She didn't have to. The grin said it all. For fans who'd followed her through the ups and downs. The fairy tale romance with Russell Brand that ended in heartbreak back in 2012, and the long, complicated run with Orlando Bloom that quietly wrapped in 2024, this felt like the start of a new chapter. And maybe that's why the moment hit harder than expected. It wasn't gossip. It felt like growth. Clips of that exchange hit social media within minutes, and just like that, #KatyConfirms was everywhere. Millions of views poured in across TikTok and X, each one dissecting the same line like it was a lyric from one of her songs. Some fans called it iconic, others thought it was risky, but almost everyone agreed on one thing. She was in control of her own story again. People magazine called it a masterclass in owning your narrative, while a BBC interviewer later quoted her saying, "Life's about new chapters, and I'm learning to write mine differently now." Simple words, but they carried weight. Still, not everyone bought into the romance right away. A few skeptics pointed out the timing, saying it was too convenient, especially since her new album had been getting lukewarm reviews. Others argued she was just leaning into the hype to distract from the music press. But those who've followed her career know that Katy's always blurred the lines between art and real life. Maybe that was the point. Maybe, after months of being caught in rumors, she just wanted to reclaim the story on her own stage instead of watching strangers twist it online. Meanwhile, Trudeau's side of things was equally fascinating. For a man who had spent so many years speaking from podiums and polished press rooms, hearing his name whispered at a pop concert felt surreal. Back in Canada, news channels couldn't stop looping the clip. For him, it was confirmation too. Subtle, but undeniable. After all, how many times does a global pop star publicly nod to you without ever saying your name? It was the kind of acknowledgement that doesn't need a headline. It just lingers. What stood out most, though, was how normal she made it feel. No big speech, no PR statement, just a quick, offhand comment that told the world everything. Maybe that's why fans connected with it so much. It felt genuine, like two people figuring things out, not some orchestrated celebrity spectacle. And as the cheers echoed through the arena and the last notes of her encore faded, one question lingered. What happens next? Because if Katy's words marked the start of something public, Trudeau's next moves would decide what that meant. Was this just a fleeting connection between two people at crossroads in their lives? Or was it something deeper that neither of them could quite walk away from? The answer, as it turns out, started taking shape not on a stage, but behind the scenes, where Trudeau, freshly out of office and out of his old life, began making some unexpected moves of his own. Trudeau's relentless chase and post-divorce pivot. After September 2025, Justin Trudeau wasn't the man running a country anymore. He was a former prime minister with a lot of time to think, a lot of headlines trailing him, and apparently a lot of determination to make a personal connection that mattered. Suddenly, the world-famous politician traded suits for casual looks, mornings at the gym, and evenings on his phone strategizing, not for policy, but for someone who had caught his eye in ways no cabinet meeting ever could. Katy Perry wasn't just another celebrity name on a list. She became the person who got him texting late into the night, planning trips, and probably overthinking every emoji he sent. What makes this chase interesting isn't just the celebrity factor, it's the timing. Trudeau's divorce from Sophie Gregoire finalized in August 2025, ending an 18-year marriage with 3 kids, Xavier, Ella Grace, and Hadrian, while keeping the optics civil. Publicly, it was amicable and co-parenting first, but behind closed doors, it meant he could finally explore something new. Friends and insiders hinted that his interest in Perry wasn't a casual fling, it was deliberate, almost careful. He flew across the continent multiple times, making weekend getaways to California while avoiding the paparazzi, and reportedly left subtle reminders of his thoughtfulness. Playlists, handwritten notes, even small bouquets. It wasn't showy. It was a personal charm offensive, like someone saying, "I see you, really see you," without needing the cameras to notice. Of course, this didn't happen in a vacuum. Perry had every reason to hesitate. Trudeau's past controversies, the blackface scandal, the political probes, the intense media scrutiny, could easily feel like baggage, especially when you're a pop star who's had her own share of headline storms. But friends said she warmed to how different he was off camera. He could be witty, thoughtful, even quietly playful in ways that weren't captured in news clips. It's one thing to read a political speech, another entirely to watch someone genuinely laugh at your quirks. And for Perry, who had weathered public criticism, personal loss, and career pressures, that authenticity mattered. Then there's the emotional layer. Both of them had gone through grief that most fans didn't know about. Perry's miscarriage in 2020, Trudeau's brother lost in an avalanche in 1998. Sources say those conversations, rare, private, and often tender, built a bond far beyond yacht selfies or staged appearances. It was trust and understanding, a bridge between two very public lives. Could you imagine finding someone who actually gets it when the world is always watching? That seems to have been their foundation. By October, after months of quiet pursuit, private visits, and late-night conversations, their connection solidified. Trudeau reportedly marveled at Perry's spontaneity, while she appreciated his calm, steady presence, a counterbalance to the whirlwind of fame. Friends joked that it was a careful dance, how to be together while maintaining careers, privacy, and public images. But the effort paid off. When the yacht photos leaked, it wasn't a shock so much as a confirmation. All those secret flights, all those subtle gestures, had led somewhere real. Public backlash, fan frenzy, and what's next? When Katy Perry finally hinted at her relationship with Justin Trudeau, the reactions were instantaneous and all over the place. And not just in the usual fan excitement kind of way. Social media went wild. X and TikTok erupted with hashtags like Power Couple Goals and millions of clips replaying her cheeky stage admission. But at the same time, critics questioned whether this was smart timing, given Trudeau's past controversies and Perry's recent album dip. Reddit threads lit up, dissecting everything from potential PR strategies to whether this was a genuine romance or just headline fuel. And fans couldn't stop comparing this to every previous relationship of hers, from Russell Brand to Orlando Bloom. Even Sophie Gregoire weighed in, calmly clarifying she wished them well while keeping her focus on her podcast, which only added a layer of intrigue about the real dynamics behind the scenes. Dig a little deeper, and the connection starts to make sense. Both of them have spent their lives pushing boundaries. Perry with albums like Witness in 2017 that tested expectations of pop and politics. Trudeau as Canada's progressive face since his 2015 election, juggling public scrutiny with personal stakes. They share passions that go beyond romance: LGBTQ+ rights, climate initiatives, mental health, and advocacy for women in leadership. Sources told E! News that they spend hours talking about fame, family pressures, and the weird intersection where celebrity meets responsibility, with Perry reflecting on growing up in the spotlight and Trudeau drawing from a dynastic political upbringing. Looking ahead, there's no shortage of speculation about what comes next. Could we see Perry's music scoring Trudeau's memoir? A joint appearance at climate or charity events? TED Talks together? The obstacles are obvious: long-distance tours, kids, media glare. But insiders insist there's real chemistry here. In a world where public figures often keep love behind a veil, Perry's London stage admission wasn't just a reveal. It was a glimpse at vulnerability and authenticity. And as 2025 continues to unfold, it raises the question, could this be the start of a pairing that changes the way we see celebrity and politics collide? Or is it just another headline waiting to evolve? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.